Technology today has advanced beyond my wildest expectations. You can access the entire history of human thought with a search query or generate an image of almost anything you can think of in a few seconds with some creative prompts. You can navigate the world or fly through our known universe in virtual reality. But do you know what you couldn't do until about a few months ago? Easily order an image of the Earth. The Earth observation market is entrenched with legacy federal government data providers that have rectified massive barriers accessing their data. To solve this problem and easify the access of Earth observation data, my guest today, Luke Fischer, an Army helicopter pilot and industry veteran of the emerging electric aviation industry, teamed up with poker player, author, and hedge fund manager Bill Perkins to launch a new application called SkyFi. We discussed the power of partnerships in Earth observation, the evolution of possibilities of the SkyFi company, and creative ideas and emerging concepts for the EO market. We even do a brief demonstration of the web app to show potential users just how easy it is. My name is Nick. I appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button or leave a review. This is the NDS Show. Enjoy Luke Fischer from SkyFi. We're joined by Luke Fischer today. Luke, I was hoping you could tell us, what is SkyFi?
Yeah, good lead-in question. So I'm CEO and co-founder of SkyFi. SkyFi is an Earth observation marketplace company, and we're taking the approach to easify the access to Earth observation data and imagery. And what we do is we take a partnership approach. So we partner with satellite operators, drone operators, stratospheric balloon companies, airplane companies. Basically, if you got a sensor on it, it's in the air. We'll partner with you and broaden it out to the masses, with our massive reach that we've got going. And so that's on one side. And on the other side, we partner with analytic companies because the same, thing we're trying to do with the satellite and Earth observation data companies and imagery is just easify the access to analytics. And I think we're in, this unique opportunity where, this magical technology that flies overhead is just hard to get. So we're just making it easier for folks. So Earth observation marketplace company, we've got a web and mobile application as our first product, both on Google Play Store, Apple Store, and then on the web as well. You can download it today. It's live. We launched January 17th with our first product and seeing some good customer traction. So yeah, that's where we are.
Well, my observation from what you're saying is that you're playing the essential middleman between the data and the analytics. And I was hoping maybe you could tell us why is that necessary? Why does that need to even exist? Why don't people just go get the data themselves and run their own analytics?
Yeah. Part of that, the biggest problem is get the data yourselves. If you were to go to a restaurant, a business, just pick any, random, grouping of people and be like, hey, I want a challenge. I want everyone in this room to go buy a satellite image in 48 hours. Otherwise, we're going to kill your family. Everyone would be dead because it was just so hard to get before SkyFi, where it's an access problem. And so
that should be your slogan. Don't kill your family. Use SkyFi.
Don't kill your family. And there's, I'll give a shout out to Jill Morrison from Umbra, who's a good friend. They're local in Austin with us, where Umbra is a great partner of ours. What he had was a hiring challenge. This is again before SkyFi was created, where he would tell his new employees and coworkers, "Hey, you have 2 weeks to buy a satellite image. Go." And without a doubt, everyone would fail. And this is at a satellite company. That's how broken this process has been. And the reason is, it's a very simple reason, with your background, my background on the government side. If you look at the satellite industry, primarily satellite industry is what we're talking about, even though we have the balloons and airplanes and drone partners, is these satellite companies have modeled their sales cycle after their biggest customer. And that biggest customer for the last decades has been the governments across the world. Governments have the government acquisition cycle. And we all know how how easy and simple it is to understand the government acquisition cycle.
Super easy.
That was super easy. Yeah, it's not complicated at all. Well, they modeled their sales cycle after that. So now you have this process where it takes 3 to 6 months to get imagery, and you have these big contracts, and it is not designed for the commercial space. And we're at this inflection point now where we're starting to see the shift where largely DoD, U.S. government related technology shifting over to the commercial world. And I like to use the analogy of, if I were to go to an investor 20 plus years ago, 25, 30 years ago and say, hey, in the future, everyone in the world is going to be wearing 2 to 3 GPS devices on their body at all times, I would have gotten laughed out of the room. They're like, that's just government technology. There's no commercial use case for it here. Yet here we are today. We walk around with smartwatches and phones and in our vehicles, and we don't even know this underlying technology is there. So I see that same mentality, happening where we're breaking that cycle and going like, hey, this commercial data and imagery and analytics and SAR imagery and thermal and hyperspectral is there. Everyone can use it. They just don't have access. So we're just making it easy on that middleman approach. And there's the middleman. Yeah, I think kind of. Really, I think we're the front people. We're the ones engaging with the customers. We've got significant traction that we've seen and proven out this thesis where, it's just this natural evolution of technology where we have, amazing technology flying overhead. We're taking care of the customers, and solving those pain points. So yeah, middleman or front person, really engage with the customers is what we're doing and our focus is.
Well, cool. Where have you guys been seeing success so far? Like, who are the key customers that are wanting to grab a hold of this app? And it's also a web platform.
Right. Yeah. Native web, mobile app, Google Play Store. What we're seeing is really 3 big buckets of customers that I like to talk about. First, when we started SkyFi, there's this thesis of there's these consumers out there, massive amounts of consumers that need satellite imagery and data. They just don't know what to do with it yet or how to engage with it, just completely foreign to them. So if you provide the access, let the builders build, creators create, just get it out to the masses. That's our best, it's this like hive mind mentality for it. So we have this large base of consumers that are just curious, and it gets down into this, enabling a transparent view into the earth like never before. And so that's one big thing. And I'll talk about the transparency and the transparent view into earth in a little bit. Then we have this business side where large enterprises, multi-billion-dollar industries, smaller, startups, we're seeing them gravitate to the platform as well, because now you have this, instead of dealing with one satellite provider, negotiating a contract 3 to 6 months. They want to sign you up for a big, yearly contract. You're dealing with a commission-based sales team who's trying to extract as much value out of the customer as possible. They're sick of it. And they're going like, why do I go through that one company when I can go to SkyFi and I've got them all? I can download an app, I can press a couple buttons, and I can get my image. And then what we've also done to satisfy, those consumers in these businesses is create a large, what we call our bulk purchase API, where it's all endpoints to endpoints. If you want 100 images at a time, 1,000 images at a time, just come in and get your data. And the same thing, you got provider selection. You don't have to do a contract. If you want to pay up front because it's easy, great. And you just buy down that dollar amount. You don't have to, just the easification side. So that's the second bucket. And then the third bucket is this, like no surprise, this early government work, which is still very early. I'm super familiar with the government contracting side for the previous work I did, various companies. And that is coming, but it's less about the imagery there and about the underlying technology that we're building, that we're seeing some interest for it. So so those 3 buckets really focus on, but again, agriculture, finance, real estate, insurance, seeing just like this gravitation towards the platform. And again, we're months old, in terms of product release, and just seeing the splash we made in the market and hearing people going like, finally somebody's, accomplishing this and making it easy. So it feels good.
I know I gravitated to it. The second I saw it, I was like, Yes, that's what we need right there. It right away I got it. I was like, this. I know exactly what they're doing. This makes perfect sense to me. Um, I've ordered a few images and it's working.
Thank
It
you.
works great. No problem. How was it initially developed and funded? Like, this is a risky business to get into. Developing these applications these days.
Yeah, and so the story, so in late 2021, I met Bill Perkins, who co-founded he and I co-founded the company. He was trying to buy satellite imagery for his hedge fund. He talks about this a lot on, CNBC and Fox and, just all over social about, here's a guy who was trying to buy, $500K, $1 million, bunch of money for satellite imagery. And same thing, had to call people on the phone, negotiate deals, 3 to 6 months, having to sign up for a large, contract. And here we are in a day and age where I can buy a house online, I can buy a car online, I can get almost anything delivered to my front door, yet I can't get a satellite image on my phone without talking to a human. It's ridiculous. Right. And again, it's based on breaking this business model. So that was the initial idea. I met Bill. We the company was formed in late 2021. Then I was off to the races, building a team. I largely pulled from my network. I was at Uber for a couple years, at Uber Elevate, which was the electric aviation initiative at Uber. And so through the Uber network,
is that still a thing?
No, it was. That business unit was acquired by Joby Aviation about a year after I left Uber to join Joby, and we can get down into my history a little bit later, I think. But that was super fun and worth talking about for sure. So we built this team, and largely we've got a couple GIS folks on the team, but largely it's from Uber. It's from big tech companies. So, we are familiar with building products for millions of people on mobile and web, and not satisfying, dozens or hundreds of customers because that's what's needed for the scale. We didn't want to come into this with this GIS bias, because I've seen, and we currently see a lot of companies out there like that, where they're GIS professionals, they spin out a company and they're building for GIS, where a normal person, I say normal, not like GIS people aren't normal, but a person not familiar with GIS tools and technology has no idea what anyone's talking about. When you start talking about satellite resolution and pixel size and orbits, and people are like, I don't care about any of that. I just want my image. And so it's a product focused organization, heavy on the user experience. So we built this core team. My CTO, Crossan, was at Uber for years. He was able to, join up with a bunch of his former coworkers at Uber and built this really phenomenal team. Our product team comes from Uber, largely in major tech companies, and the business development team and ops team from just a variety of industries. So we raised just over $10 million last year, which was great. Family, friends, some really good venture capital firms that we just happen to know through Bill's network, through my network. And that allowed us to really capitalize on speed. We made a bet on hiring. We're like, we're going fast because we need to take advantage of the opportunity in this market where we see the satellite and Earth observation industry going. So we built this great team, launched the product in January, and then we're in the process of closing our next round now, and I'll release that once it's final. But very happy with the new investors coming in, and we're just seeing this, this demand and repetitive saying about finally somebody's doing this. Finally, someone's taking care of the pain points and going about it the right way for it. So great team. And that's what it's all about, is the team.
A couple things there. It sounds like Uber is about to get a lot worse. So I'm about to short sell all my Uber stock. I don't have any. If it is a public company. Shout out to Bill Perkins. I was going to say shout out to Bill Perkins because I'm listening to his book. I found out about it through Twitter, and I'm listening to the audio version. I'm usually reading a book and then listening to one at the same time. a really cool book called Die with Zero. Definitely recommend people check that out. It's about how to actually give away your money and not, not wait until you don't know when you're going to die to give it away. It's pretty cool book. I definitely recommend listening to that one or reading it if you want to.
Yeah, and his thesis on it, because it's good to touch on too, is like maximizing life's fulfillment, not waiting until you're 85 and have all this money and then you can't go skydiving, you can't go mountain climbing or fly a plane. So enjoy it now. So and we embrace that at SkyFi. That's part of the vision. Like you have to change the world. And how do you do that?
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting stuff in that book. You talked about kind of being an outsider coming into this market. There's obviously a lot of legacy satellite imagery providers and analytic companies. And I don't know if you have any direct competition, really. I think maybe a couple apps that are close or websites that are close. Have you faced any, where's the resistance coming from, if there is resistance?
Yeah, there's been this saying that we started hearing as we're building SkyFi of a consumer market doesn't exist. It's been tried before. Don't waste your time. And every time we heard that, it was more exciting and more exciting. We're going you're all wrong. You're it's like standing up, in a theater of people telling you you're wrong. You're going well, cool, I'm going to do it anyways and prove you all wrong. And the answer to, that question of why doesn't a consumer market exist, when I hear from satellite companies and consultants and investors, they go it's been tried before. And I was like, no, it has not been tried before. And then when you look back at how it was tried before, it was the same business model. They're going well, if we get these consumers to sign up for multi-hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for contracts and sell them, huge swaths of earth for thousands and thousands of dollars as the initial entry point. That was their attempt. And when you look at it, it's of course that doesn't work.
Right.
Back to Uber, that would be like in Uber's business model going, hey, Nick, you can use Uber, but you have to pay $150,000 a year. And every trip you take is going to be a semi. When you're I want to take a pay-as-you-go model and I want to take a Toyota Prius to get to A to B, and that's it. Maybe I use it 5 times a year, maybe I use it 1,000 times a year. So it was just the business approach was trying to, square peg into a round hole. It just didn't work and it just didn't fit the model and the willingness to pay. And, what we did a large part of 2022 was, the phrase I like to use is get out of the building, talk to customers, actual customers that are going to buy, how much would you pay? What is your pain points? What industry are you coming from? So thousands and thousands of users that we surveyed, we interviewed, and that's still ongoing for it. So the whole, resistance came from that sort of group, the GIS folks that are nah, it doesn't exist. It's already been tried. I'm nope, it hasn't been tried really for it. And then, we see some, competitors coming up, but again, they're still taking that approach where they're built by GIS folks for GIS folks. So unnecessarily complicated. The user experience and user interface just sucks. You just can't figure it out because we test out everyone, try to buy, and quickly you run down a road of, a salesperson, that's the, the one pet peeve I have is if you want to try us, contact sales. As soon as I hear that, I'm that's not going to work.
Bye-bye.
As soon as you get a human involved, it just slows down the process and it gets down to what's your use case? What are you gonna, how much can you pay a year to do
How
this?
can I rake you over the coals?
Exactly. And really what they're solving for is trying to go, that value-based pricing going if you pay me, $100,000 a year, I'm going to save you X amount of dollars. Therefore you should be able to pay more based on the industry. And it just doesn't work like that. People see through it right away and it's unnecessary, for that aspect. So there's some competition there. One of the frequent questions we get is, why do these satellite partners partner with you? Can't they just do what you're doing? And the answer is, of course they can do it. Software is copyable. Anyone can hire a top tier team like we did, do a bunch of consulting with user experience, the gamification of all of this and build it. But it comes down to really 2 things. It's the culture and then the diversity of sensor selection. So on the culture side, most of these space companies are space companies, like literal rocket scientists figuring out how to put metal into space. And that's what they need to focus on to build the best quality product. And then on the diversification of sensor, yeah, of course, one satellite provider could copy what we're doing, make a beautiful app, but they only have their satellites. So you still have to, there's this switching cost. And what I like to say is, you treat the satellite companies and drone companies, airplane companies, balloon companies as the movie studios of the world. And we're this Netflix approach where everyone goes to Netflix, you get comedy, drama, thriller, any time of day, any movie studio. And, that's what we do, where you come and it's electro-optical, it's SAR. In the future, it's, hyperspectral and thermal and analytics. So it's just this one-stop shop for everything.
And I like that. What about like the big satellite imagery providers, the Maxar, Planet, these big companies? Have you had any luck in striking up partnerships with these big providers? You don't need to throw them under the bus, but I just mean the big ones.
No, I love Planet, love Maxar. You can go to our partner page and see who our current partners are. Of course, we talk to everyone. Various stages of discussions on all these, and for most of them, it just takes a lot of diligence. It takes a lot of time to work through the business model because. In this day and age, if the great SPAC debacle of 2022, where companies now are having to really find where they can put value in, to appease shareholders, and it's just the months and months of negotiations and back and forth that have happened. That's the real hard part about the business that we run is the partnership deals, because everyone thinks they're special. Everyone thinks their satellites are better than their competitors. And, we talk to everyone, and, it's just about like, who cares? Like, we'll put it on the platform and the customers will decide. But yeah, I think those, will eventually come. And I am, what we want is everyone to succeed, to make the best satellites, to push it out there. Because the broader we can make this industry, excuse me, the better it is for everyone. And we're not just trying to say like SkyFi is the best, everyone else, we don't need to worry about, because we're a partnership. We want everyone to win. We want the best satellites to come. We want more funding to come. Because I think this market, prediction for Earth observation data, I think has been artificially constrained over the years because of the business model. So it's about to break open. I think there's just a ton of value for a lot of people to get across the world.
Yeah. And you talked about at the beginning about how these big companies have modeled their businesses after the government procurement cycle, which is insane and crazy. And we could probably do a whole 5 hours talking about that. But you're hitting on something that I think is actually pretty unique to this space as well, is that the possibility of having good partnerships. Like I can't tell you how many times that we've talked to other big companies that provide XYZ things, and we say, oh, we could do this half of it for you if you want to form partnerships and go after these opportunities. I think in the geospatial intelligence market, which is more focused on defense and things like that. I think proving out how powerful partnerships can be if you work together is actually a pretty cool thing that you're kind of injecting into the marketplace. What does that look like to you? Like, what does a really good partnership look like? Like, you can you can talk about the business case, or even just the kumbaya case.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about both of them. So the best partners we have realize that their role in the ecosystem is much different than ours. Their role is to produce the best satellite, the best sensor, get it to space, and then at that same time have an API that allows multiple providers or SkyFi to connect to sell that data. Because a handful of times now, even over the last couple months, we've talked to satellite providers, excuse me, that have a satellite in space or a couple satellites in space, and now they start thinking about an API. Now they start thinking about software engineering and how to get it to the customers, where those discussions should be in parallel. Right. And so the best partners we've seen are some that haven't even launched yet that are already thinking about this. And obviously we're informing them going like, here's how you need to build the API so we can connect to it easily. And so that has been refreshing. Then the other ones that realize, their value is providing, great technology, and through us, we'll sell it to the masses. So they know their spot in the ecosystem, just like we do. Like we're not building satellites. We're not going to build analytics. Now caveat, like who knows what the future will hold, but that's not our focus. Because the team isn't designed like that. So, and on the counter of that, the partners that I've seen that will struggle are trying to do it all. It's kind of like in the aerospace industry of Boeing was like, not only are we going to build the airplanes, we're going to train all the pilots, we're going to run the airline, we're going to, build terminals, we're going to handle, customer check-in and customer support. It's like, hold on, just build a great airplane. Delta will fly it, Southwest will fly it. Those types of discussions need to, be cemented in. And again, comes back to the companies that are trying to convince themselves they're, technology platforms or AI platforms. It's like, you're a satellite company, build great satellites, put them in space. Don't try to just use buzzwords to get your stock price up a little bit, or you convince your investors.
You just talked about something that, and I think we kind of mentioned it earlier, but the fact that these businesses are modeled after government procurement, which is an incredibly tough industry to break into, and that's why they kind of poo-poo partnerships, right? They're saying, why? We're already in the door. We've already met all the requirements. We have our, clearances and network access and all these things that you don't have. So we're just going to do this work too. Like if you look at these big satellite imagery providers, I won't name names, but a lot of them are getting into like these service spaces that don't make any sense. Like, why are you doing that? You are launching satellites into space and creating awesome data. Why are you worried about providing a GIS analyst over here? But they do that. And it's because they've had this stranglehold on the government, right? They're like, well, the government's already buying this stuff from us. Now they're just going to buy this stuff. And that's the way that the federal government works. Is it's incredibly tough to get into, especially in the intelligence space, the cleared space. But once you're in, you can kind of block out a lot of competition, and it's not conducive to partnership. So, I mean, that's actually a bigger discussion to have about, how the government, the way the government procurement system works and the way that industry contractors work, the large ones, actually aren't conducive to partnerships. We could go crazy on that. But hey, what I wanted to do now was, and I'm sorry if you're on audio, I wanted to show your website, because your website's awesome. And I wanted to do a quick screen share of the website. And if you're on audio, I'm going to I'll give you a quick audio overview of it. I'm going to go to your website first, then to the actual app. This website is awesome. Can you see my screen? You should be able to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I saw this website. I was like, oh, this is super cool. So it starts out with Earth floating around in space and spinning in space, and you can actually control the Earth with your mouse, and you click into different areas. So we'll click into, let's say it looks like Chile over here, Argentina. Sorry, geography people, I probably got that country wrong. And then you can click in, you can kind of just see some different examples. Okay, this is Peru. I'm way off. Okay, you have different things on here. Very good. But you can see a bunch of different imagery. Here's some multispectral imagery, just to kind of give people that are maybe unfamiliar the types of data that you could procure with satellite imagery. And then some very upfront things, like you click the pricing thing, it takes you to pricing. I know, this is crazy. You can see pricing for single new image.
Weird. It's like customers know what they're paying for.
Isn't that something else? In the satellite imagery space, if you're unfamiliar, this is a new thing, right? This is not something that has existed. It's very difficult to figure out what the prices are. Anyway, so if you click on features, it takes you to this really cool site, and you can kind of zoom around and shows you the different features of the application. It's all interactive and things like that. Anyways, I just thought your website was awesome, and I wanted to show it off, and then we'll go into like actually how to order imagery. Really cool stuff. And I'm scrolling down here, and it kind of works as a side-scrolling presentation with some really awesome imagery and Earth Earth images. Let me see here. I'm going to do this too.
And then while you're pulling that up, I was just in New York City last night. We worked with a fantastic team called Decimal Studios based out of Brooklyn, and we won a Webby Award for the website for the best homepage. Which I didn't know much about the Webby Awards for a while, but it's a big deal. It's like celebrates the best of the internet. And we did this very intentionally. It's not like, we just wanted to make a cool website. To make a cool website. It's about education. It's about the engagement. We've got a blog on there where, we answer most of the common questions, but in a very easy to understand way, not in, geospatial technology terms. So yeah, kudos to the Decimal team, but very intentional on this because you have to draw people in, you have to engage them. And we're huge on social, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And you got to meet your audience and your future customers where they're at. And that's very intentional instead of just, sales-based cold calling.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely go check that out. SkyFi.com, SKYFI.com. Also, so now if you're on audio, I've pulled up the actual application for ordering imagery. And the reason I wanted to show this is because it's so easy and I love it. So you can just go to, I've typed in the convention center in St. Louis. Okay. And then it's automatically created a 5 square kilometer box around the convention center. And then it has a bunch of different imagery options here. You can see you can order some older imagery. I guess not that old, December 24, 2022. But then all the way back to looks like May.
Yeah, it goes
even further. Yep. Wow.
Yeah, even further. And there's filters where if you're like, I only want to see what was available in April of 2022, it'll pull it up and so on and so forth. For it.
So anyway, super easy app. I definitely recommend people check it out. And it even has the very transparent pricing right here. You have a day image for $4 per square kilometer, a multispectral image for $1 per square kilometer, and it's super easy. I've ordered a few images and it's worked out like a charm. So I definitely recommend people check that out. app.skyfi.com, app.skyfi.com. But if you go to their main site, you should be able to access that. Anyways, I just wanted to show just how simple it is. And we could walk through the whole process, but it's easy. You just click a button, you hit order, and that's it. Definitely recommend people check that out. All right, I'm going to stop the share here. Anyways, super cool site, man. Kudos to you guys. I always have a good impression of a company when they have good design. It's like, okay, they kind of get it a little bit, right? That design aspect super important. And I love marketing, so that helps.
And to double down on the user experience, we consulted with some just leading experts before we hired our own team of user UX designers and researchers and data analysts. And one of the ladies worked for Fortnite, and that's where we took like inspiration from, like, hey, this is the audience that we need to gear towards, because this upcoming group of 18 to 34-year-olds is all on social. They're all on mobile. They're all on, the web, and that's where they're at. So it's very intentional why we do that.
They're all on Fortnite, that's for sure. And shout out to Epic Games, which is actually out of Cary, North Carolina, in our neck of the woods.
Oh, nice.
Here.
Nice.
Yeah. Not too far away from where I'm at in Wilmington, North Carolina. I want to kind of jump over to some different stuff. We've had a good lighthearted discussion here, but let's hop into some of the other things. What about privacy? I definitely think I can see people being very resistant to this sort of thing. Like, I don't want people just taking images of me or my house. More specifically, you're not going to really see people that well, although it's getting better. But what are the issues concerning privacy? Have you heard anybody complaining about this or wondering about this, or any potential legal problems?
Yeah, for legal problems, no. I mean, very well covered. We're a U.S. company. We obviously follow NOAA rules. And we've got a very robust end user licensing agreement. Our our KYC or our diligence on our customers, everyone that comes through, we're checking sanctions, like very, very robust and very conservative on that, because we can't afford to screw it up, because it's the reputation, not only us, but our partners. So very, very clear on what we do there. On privacy, it's one of the, for the folks that are unfamiliar with the satellite and Earth observation industry, it's one of the common questions we get. Can you spy on my, my ex-girlfriend? Are you going to be able to track me in my house? And the answer is no. We can't. The resolution isn't good enough. Now, in the future, resolution is only going to get better and better, but still, it's very unrealistic. We're not in the James Bond age where we're watching live video on our Apple Watches of people that we're tracking over the world. That just doesn't exist. And then, I also remember, on privacy, it's always funny. So no, there's privacy concerns, of course. I also think it's just this natural evolution of technology where we live in. And I like to look at it for, this transparent view into Earth that we're now allowing people to have, and what good can come from that. Because 100+ years ago, people only knew what they either saw with their own eyes as they walked out of their house, or what they read in a, small, newspaper or some articles. And now we're at this point where I can pull up my phone and look across the world with a satellite and see what's going on. And I think that only just better informs the world on education. Last week, we, put some photos up that went pretty viral about this 39,000 ton used clothes pile that is dumped in Chile, where it's out of sight, out of mind. No one would know it. And then we had somebody go on the ground in Chile after they saw the industry and took ground level pictures. And, so that invokes action and change, across the world. So, that I think will only allow people to come closer together, as humans, when we realize like everyone's dealing with the same struggles. We have to do better for the Earth. You can see this effect that humans are having on the Earth. And how do we change that? So that's where I look at it when, people start bringing up privacy. There's a much greater good here. And I also remember growing up, we used to throw this big yellow book on our front doorstep with your name, your phone number, your address. It's called a telephone book, and those days are come and gone now. But yeah, just with privacy concerns, they're always going to be there. We're always going to have to, do really well at doing. Yeah, there you go. That's that. Now we're looking at the massive used clothes pile in Chile, where we all know they come from all parts of the world, dump them in the desert. Oh, we've solved the problem. And that's just not how we need to treat the Earth.
How did this happen? This crazy clothes pile in Chile. So here's a ground photo. We're looking at on SkyFi's Twitter. They retweeted something from Cristina Dorado Ortiz. Shout out to Cristina Dorador Ortiz. I'm sorry I butchered your name. But there's a ground photo of this massive clothes pile in Chile. I mean, just huge pile of clothes. Do we have any idea where that came from?
All over the world. All over the world. And it's just, it's one of those things, out of sight, out of mind. We also, and it's in the US, I think it's in Nevada. We posted it a while ago too, where there's this same thing, but it's used tires, where we just find these places. So now we're starting to uncover this, now, and magnify that across the world. Human atrocities, pollution, greenhouse gases that you can measure. Now we're putting this technology into the hands of anybody in the world, and that'll just produce more stories like that, which will invoke change. And we're not saying SkyFi is solving that used clothes pile. We're illuminating it for the world to bring about action. And it's disappointing, but again, you have to know about it. Otherwise, no one cares.
It's those damn green bins, isn't it? That's where they end up. Those bins that are at the gas station that are like, dump your clothes here. We're not a nonprofit, though, it says on the side usually. We're a for-profit company, and we're dumping your clothes in Chile, and who knows what they're doing. That's awful, and thanks for sharing that. That's definitely something people need to pay attention to, especially the people in Chile. Clean that stuff up. What are you doing? Chile? Clean this up. What about some success stories you've had early on? I mean, you just talked on a few of them, but do you have any other kind of maybe surprising success stories of people that have used the app, or maybe some case studies of interesting ways that people are using the app?
Yeah, boy, in the interesting ways, I don't exaggerate when we hear, new use cases every day. Whether it's from, people wanting to, update their local golf course map or hunting map, but, much more than that kind of like cool stuff. It's business implications, monitoring livestock feeds, looking at palm tree heights, for, deforestation, conservation efforts, looking at, major, rare earth mineral companies, and holding people accountable, but then also those, large companies, that can monitor and make sure they're doing the right thing. So we've seen a lot of that on both sides, essentially, of the business case for it. And on it, the one thing that I really like is, we've had some ground up, or bottoms up, users of our platform in the military that are going like, I need this image, the bureaucratic process above me is so burdensome. I need this now, all over the world. Illuminating a lot of stuff in the South China Sea, seeing some use cases there quite a bit, and just all over the world. And then just, interesting stuff like pool manufacturers in the US going like, hey, I want to take image to see who doesn't have a pool, who has my competitor's pool, target market here. So, absolutely phenomenal. And then big in the oil and gas sector too, in terms of, natural gas fracking, monitoring coal piles with, stereo imagery. You can get the heights of it, looking at, oil tank levels, ports, in terms of demand, when are there a lot of ships in port, so just on and on and on and on. And that just continues to be, the enforcing function where it's like, cool, we're onto something. People are just coming up with new ideas and it's amazing.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I didn't thought about the small business owner that cares about, their local market, that just wants to see what's going on. And it's very easy to identify pools and run analytics and computer vision models to see pools. It's super easy. There's free models out there that exist. What about like the evolution of the app? You got to stay ahead of the competition, things like that. Like, where's it going to be in the next, 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, it's really exciting because I mean, if we were to say like, yeah, we're done, we nailed it, nowhere near close. This is our, say our worst version of the app, our ugliest version of the app, because it's our first iteration of it. So it's only going to get better. And with the team we have, we know that we're just starting. This is just our like tiptoe into the market. It's going to get better. I think, the natural evolution of everything we're doing sums up to a point of just being able to ask questions of data and get answers. That's what it's really about. Imagery for the sake of imagery is cool. Like great pictures are cool. And you can do a lot with just, the electro-optical picture of monitoring and looking at change detection. What it comes down to is getting answers. That's what I really want to get to as a team. I want to enable a farmer in Kansas to be able to get a better crop yield and make more money and provide more for his or her family by going, how do I get a better crop yield from Nebraska raising corn, and going like, cool, you're underwatering here, you're overwatering here, look at this area. Like that's where it is, where that farmer doesn't care about the imagery, doesn't care how the analytics are done. They just want a better crop yield. That's what we need to get to. It's possible. It takes time. It takes a lot of, resources to get that and the compute power and analytics to, really, make a difference. That's where I think this app goes. And then who knows? I mean, we're starting, with airborne sensors essentially, but, it comes down to just, mapping out different data layers of the world to get a more transparent view into the earth. So we're in the short term. Yeah. One last, bit of information. Right now, it's about integrating more partners, more provider selection, hyperspectral, thermal, IR, and then the analytics to go with it.
You kind of brought something up that kind of sparked a question in my mind. There's a few companies that exist that do kind of crowdsourced intelligence collection. So they'll, pay people to go take pictures of competitors' pricing at grocery stores or collect intelligence type stuff. What about the use of human beings as sensors? Somebody going out with their phone and taking, is it all going to be aerial or Does that
Yeah,
get too
I don't
crazy?
know.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it does get too crazy. And I think it's part of that natural evolution. What I want is, we talk about this on the drone world too, there's just thousands and probably millions of drone pilots all over the world, flying for fun, but they've got sensors on them, just have an easy uploadable file, pay a little bit and, upload that data, geo-rectify it and, produce some very high fidelity for stuff you're doing already. Same thing with people. I mean, obviously Google has absolutely monetized this capability with, people taking photos and it's tagged and now it's in the Google database and in the reviews and populating throughout the world. So we're already doing that. And I think it's, we meaning, companies humans, across the world. Yeah. Humans, I think it's entirely possible to do it. Cause again, it's all about transparent view into the earth. So if that enables it, great, we'll do it.
What advice would you give to somebody that's, you guys have now entered this market, like you said, you've had some surprising things pop up. Like if someone else wanted to get into this Earth observation market, what advice would you give to them? What have you learned thus far?
At first, it's all about the team, and then speed is important. You have to have enough understanding of your competitors, your customers, your partners to understand where you can provide value and narrowly focus on that in the initial run. Because I've seen companies run to failure where they try to boil the ocean and you don't have enough resources. We're seeing some companies fail in the Earth observation industry where they're like, we're going to build and solve for all the analytic use cases. And you end up having such a huge burn that you can't hire enough humans to build all the analytics to solve all the use cases. That's why we take a partnership approach for all this. So there's some companies probably going to get acquired or go bankrupt because of this mindset of going like, we're going to be the one-stop shop, but we're going to build everything and operate satellites and all the analytics. You just can't do it. It's too much money right now. And so that's one thing. And then, just focusing on, the fundraising environment right now is very, very difficult in a lot of ways. And, the days and valuations of 2021 and 2022 are over. So there's, much more diligence, much more, proving through numbers of what you're actually doing is another thing for anyone trying to get venture money to start a company for it. So I could go on and on, but I think in terms of risk, a lot of people think of, this is not Earth observation, talk right now. This is just risk in general, where I think, people that get involved in startups, their friends and family say, boy, that's super risky. No, it's not. It's not. Right. If you do a startup and you fail, as long as you're not doing anything illegal, immoral, and ethical, you're going to be fine. You're going to go do something else, or your startup's going to be a success. And I think that's what's prevented a lot of people, because they hear in the Earth observation industry, like, it's been done before. It's, it's too hard. You can't do it. And every time I hear that, it gets me more excited. I'm like, great, this is going to be super fun. Cause it's challenging. Like, who wants to do something easy? It's boring.
Well, it's very, very capital intensive because of the niche type of data you're working with and things like that. And all those barriers we talked about, like it just sounds like it massively expensive to enter this market in almost any regard. But I think what you guys are doing is absolutely awesome. How did you get to be the one running this company? So,
yeah, kind of my story a little bit. I was in the Army for a long time, about 16 years on active duty. Then I finished out the rest of the 20 years at Defense Innovation Unit as a reservist. But I got off active duty after I went to business school and then joined Uber Elevate. And I was there for a couple of years, on the flight operations and operations side, which was super fun, integrating electric aircraft, talking to all the manufacturers of how do you enable, a more efficient, journey through the Uber app by speeding up and having an air segment in there. And then I ran the drone delivery side of Uber's experiment for that. And then I joined a company called Joby Aviation, which was building one of those electric aircraft and is by far the leader in the world right now for producing an electric aircraft that is, absolutely amazing, super efficient, super quiet. It's real. I mean, I've seen it, touched it, flown the simulator, and to hear a helicopter-like vehicle hover 100 feet away from you and having a conversation at normal volume, it blows your mind. Then I went to the venture capital side, And I had a small data science startup out of Stanford as well that, like most startups failed, just wasn't the right time and team for it. But then, I moved to Austin when I was in the venture world working for Shield Capital, met Bill Perkins, who, had this, grand vision of SkyFi and unlocking Earth observation data for the masses. I was thinking a lower level because I was involved in the drone airspace and electric aviation, going like, you believe in autonomy, and there's drones, electric aviation, and they're autonomous and sidewalk drones. They collected large amounts of data, so package that up and sell it. And I'd always talked about, and space is too hard, I'll deal with that later. And then sure enough, Bill's like, let's do space. And, so here we are, doing space. So, and then, CEO and co-founder of the company.
What did you do in the Army? What was your job in the Army?
Yeah, as an Army aviator, most of the time was on the special operations side, for, variety of missions all over the world. In the regular Army, I did, the typical couple year-long deployments to Iraq, flying, and then it was time for a change. So went over to the special operations side and, had a bunch more fun.
What were you flying? Helicopters, I take it?
Yep. Helicopters. Yep. Started flying the Kiowa Warrior reconnaissance attack and kind of stayed in that realm for, recon attack, a little bit of medium lift, doing infills and exfills. But the recon attack. And now it's always telling of age where that Kiowa Warrior helicopter has since been retired, and it's the Army Aviation Museum right now down at Fort Rucker.
Well, I love the fact that you're a veteran and you're kind of proving the fact that veterans can really come out of the military and do big things and be successful and run businesses. And I'm a board of directors for a organization, a nonprofit called the Veteran Business Collective. And that's the entire idea behind the organization. Is we're trying to change the script of how you think about veterans. For a long time, there's been this public persona of veterans as, they need disability assistance and they're homeless on the street begging for money and all this stuff. But in reality, if you look at the data, veterans are actually more successful in the long run than the general population. So I think what you're doing is absolutely awesome. And you're just another proof point for that for me. Do you have any cool stories about being a helicopter pilot in the Army during two major wars?
Yeah, and there was a bunch more. Boy, I could go on and on about all the stories.
Just give us the best one. Just the best one.
Let's see. I don't know. I guess the most memorable one for me was the first time going to war in Iraq. I was a very junior pilot. My organization at Fort Drum, New York was, I'd say 90% of us, because 9/11 happened my senior year in college, and that changed everything for us. So right into the height of war, right into flight school, where it was just like pumping out numbers, go, go, go. I remember, we deployed to Iraq. 90% of us had not been to combat. And as we were flying, I spent my first year in Mosul, Iraq, never left the city. We flew around the city, 24 hours a day, providing ground support, reconnaissance and attack missions, to our ground counterparts. But the first time flying to Mosul, myself and my co-pilot with me, both brand new, we turned on the radio to start monitoring the frequency to see what we were hearing. And it was just pure chaos. Hearing gunfire in the back, guys on the radio literally screaming for air support, Kiowa warriors being bounced across the city to support this firefight. And then again, hearing those a 50 cal machine gun going off in the background as, being called for support. And that's when it's all theoretical until that sort of, event happens and you're like, oh shit, we're about to get into it.
Right.
And that was the kickoff for it. And sure enough, that year there of, flying around, mortars dropping on us all the time while you're, in your little base and just getting accustomed to it. And then that radio traffic, which I thought was so crazy and so chaotic, just became a normal thing. We're like, that's just a normal shift, for it. So yeah. And then that was memorable to say the least. I will never forget that first, just like, let's tune up the frequency to see what's going on before we get up there and start replacing that unit that we're going into.
It's just chaos.
Total war at its finest through a radio.
Oh man. Very good. So you guys are based out of Austin, Texas. Is that right?
Yeah. So headquarters in Austin. Okay. We have folks all over the world, Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, East Coast, West Coast. Everywhere. 'Cause it's all just about finding good people. And we have a hybrid work approach, mainly remote, where we've got an office in Bulgaria and then, small office in Austin as well, where again, it's, we just want people to work where they're happy and produce good results.
How is Austin? I hear a lot of people moving to Austin, a lot of crazy stuff about Austin, but maybe
it's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing. One, there's just a very good veteran group too. There's natural magnet here because it's, just kind of the best of both. Amazing food, amazing music, amazing people. Is it hot? Absolutely. Do I love it? Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's Texas and there's just, a lot of good things about it. Austin is just great. There's always something to do. Downtown is beautiful. And you really start noticing too, all major tech companies are here. Obviously, Elon Musk and, Tesla, seeing the big gigafactory, Facebook, Google, Amazon, you name it. It's just becoming more and more and more for it. So, and with it, housing prices, of course, supply demand, housing prices are going up, leveling off a little bit from the hype of the last couple of years. But yeah, love it. Encourage everyone to come visit.
Cool. And you're going to the GEOINT Symposium in St. Louis. Anything you're looking forward to seeing there, or anybody you're looking forward to meeting, companies, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward because that was our first big event last year where we didn't have a product yet. We're still doing market research. We had a little booth and people are like, what is this? And that's when the naysayers started to go like, oh, it's been done before. But overwhelmingly, you heard a lot of people going like, it's about
Were you taking names, Luke? Were you taking names?
Oh, yeah.
This year?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I've got receipts. Got receipts. Yeah, no. And this year, looking forward to all the partners, that we're working with now to see, how we're creating value for everyone else. We'll be at booth 1932. Swing on by, and it's going to be should be fun, super fun.
You mentioned some of the partners. I wanted to just ask about a few of them. So you have Satellogic on board. What are they providing?
Satellogic. Yeah, one of the great partners, sub-meter resolution, electro-optical for us, and being able to task through them as well has been phenomenal. They're one of the first teams that we talked to where we had some partnership meetings at various levels, and they instantly got it. They're like, cool, we're all in, and we're just seeing that the fruit of the partnership. Those are one of the fantastic partners that we have that they're responsive. They know what we're trying to do. They have their value, and it's just great. For them. Yeah.
And then the other one I want to ask about was Umbra. Is it kind of the same thing?
Yeah. Umbra's great. Yeah. So they're, Gabe, the president lives, just down a couple miles from me, and Joe Morrison's here. I think a lot of people know Joe Morrison for his Twitter. But more importantly, just one of the brilliant minds of the geospatial world. And, Gabe coming from, a legal background, taking a refreshing approach to, very similar to SkyFi, is like, people just need this. You need the open data and the Creative Commons licensing. We at SkyFi, Gabe says it publicly. He's like, he'd rather have people buy Umbra data through SkyFi, so he doesn't have to worry about that side. And they've got some significant work with the government, but yeah, fantastic partner. SAR, synthetic aperture radar imaging, that Umbra is doing is really revolutionizing the industry. They still have, a few amount of satellites. They're going to launch a bunch more. But just phenomenal in terms of pricing, the licensing, and then just the quality of their product. Everyone should check them out because they just, they're big on social. They're pushing it out, and that's what the world needs. It's going, here's what SAR is, because most people don't know.
Yeah, SAR, I was an imagery analyst in the Army, and SAR was like, ugh. It was like, do we have to look at the SAR image? But now it's really good. It's really, the resolution's gotten a lot better, and you're actually able to do some identification and things like that were not possible before. but anyway, so you have Satellogic, Umbra, any other like key partners that have been great to work with?
Yeah, Albedo is one I'm really excited about. Kind of naming our like Austin collective crew here. Austin is also a great space scene. There's everything from software to the hardware side. So Albedo, the world's first 10 centimeter resolution imagery for electro-optical, and they'll have some thermal and overlays as well. We knew that team from very, very early on. The venture firm I was at, Shield Capital, co-led, their A round with Bill Gates, whatever Bill Gates's firm is. And so, yeah, very, very excited about them. But then all of them, like really all of our partners, all over the world, because again, you need this diversity of sensors from, the geographic spread to the sensor spread as well. And then in the analytics, we've got a lot of analytic partners too, which I'm very excited about. Some, again, local Austin crew, StriveWorks. They hire a lot of military veterans. Very, very, excellent top tier company to work for. Then some folks that have been in the Earth observation industry for a while, like Impact Observatory with Steve Brumby, one of the co-founders of Descartes. I could go on and on and on, but yeah, there's just exciting stuff. And I just want to like build faster because I want to get like all of this out to the market. So that's the goal.
Very cool. So you have EO. It sounds like you have SAR. Sounds like you have some infrared, thermal, whatever you want to call it. Multispectral? Is there many multispectral providers?
Yeah, multispectral's on there already. You can get that. Stereo imaging will come up, which is again just two different angles at it. But hyperspectral is relatively new, and we've got a handful of early hyperspectral partners that have just launched or about to launch. Which hyperspectral I think could be world changing if you get it in the user's hands. I mean, what you can do is just phenomenal. As long as you have the signature of what you're looking at, you're like, show me all the blue tarps in Mogadishu, Somalia. Show me, a blacktop driveway in this location, or show me where that, ship was painted based on, the paint signature of it and what port it's at. So phenomenal capabilities across the world.
Show me this species of conifer. You can go into the species level with really good hyperspectral imagery, and the new Landsat Next system coming out from NASA is going to have, I think, 26 bands included on there. What about government-run satellite systems? Is there any integration with Landsat or any of these other kind of free access systems, or is it no because they're free?
No, very good question. We've talked about that from day one, right before this meeting. I was talking about that with the team. SkyFi is not just where you go to get, pay for tasking or archive. SkyFi is a spot to go to get Earth observation data and imagery, period. And just making it easy. There's some companies that are doing, the open data, but one of the things I like to say, and I heard recently, is open data does not equal accessible data. And you have to make it accessible and easy. Yes, it's free, Landsat, Sentinel, a whole host of other stuff, but it's not processed at some levels. People don't know how to get it. It's not a couple button clicks. You need a geospatial kind of understanding to do it, where again, you need to release that to the world so magic can happen with that imagery. So probably a spoiler alert, but we're definitely, going to undertake this now that we've, had our first step with the, the paid tasking and archive data, because there's a bunch more out there for the world.
And are there any gaps that you're seeing in the data? Like, I'd like to have this data for this partner integrated.
I want all the satellite providers to come up with better resolution, more satellites, faster. The two big gaps I really see aren't on the sensor side. It's on the downlink, the ground station, the ground portion of delivering that data in a faster means. Instead of waiting until the satellite hits the ground station, download and upload and sends the data down and process and get it to the customer. Because now you're talking hours and days before that happens, where it should be faster, and it will be in the future. So that's one gap. Then the other gap is the API development with the satellite operators, like I was hitting at before, where it's sometimes an afterthought. And if you're not building that up front, there's companies that can do that out there. shout out to like Element 84, Spark Geo, to name a few that, can provide that expertise. That's a gap, because I don't care if you have the best satellite in the world. If there's no way for thousands of people to connect to it through us, it does nobody any good. It's like, great, you built something cool. Nobody can buy it or access it. That's what we've seen before.
Is there any emerging technology that you're tracking that would be like just awesome to either put your application on or integrate with? Specifically thinking about augmented reality here, right? Which is, I'm walking in downtown New York and I see a building and I would like an image of that. Could I just blink and then order a SkyFi image? What, like stuff like that. Is there anything that is interesting to you on the technology front that you guys would like to integrate with or build out or experiment with?
Yeah. I mean, I think the XR, which is the, catch-all term for augmented reality and virtual reality, I think there's something there in the future. I could see SkyFi, in the satellite providers and imagery providers providing that underlying imagery and database, to interact with that virtual world. Because as soon as you start being able to map the world and produce high fidelity images, that can power that more realistic simulation environment. That is exciting. I think I'd be remiss without mentioning this whole OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google Bard. I think it's inevitable. I think it's a feature. I think I've seen a couple companies going like, we're going to be the ChatGPT of the Earth observation industry, and it's a feature. You still have a lot of the underlying work with the partnership agreements, how to present it to users, and I think it's a buzzword right now, and we don't fully understand it. We embrace it at SkyFi. We're experimenting with it. If I can go, with a large language model and an interface to go give me a 5 square kilometer box around Austin, Texas Convention Center, and then it produces that and allows me to purchase it very quickly. That's under one of our themes of easification. That's what we're doing at SkyFi. So if it can easify that customer journey, great, we'll integrate it. But yeah, it's still early days for all of that, and you'll see it just like the venture phase of. If I were to say like we're SkyFi.ai, I would probably get an order of magnitude higher valuation of the company right now, but it's not realistic because that's not what we're doing for it.
Just throw AI in there. You got this.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
AI. Yeah. Very, very good. Well, where should people go if they want to find out more about SkyFi?
Yeah, first go to skyfi.com, skyfi.com. You can go to the Google Play Store, Apple Store to download the app, SkyFi. Right now, start experimenting with it. You can download it for free. You can browse around, check it out. And what we really want is feedback from users, as fast as possible, positive, critical, because that's what makes us better. I don't want to hear just how cool it is. I want to hear what could be better for the future. And then at skyfi.com, we've got a blog. We've got fantastic customer support throughout the app. So we're very responsive in that. So yeah, would encourage folks to go check it out.
Okay, cool. We'll also put a bunch of links in the description on all the audio platforms and YouTube and all that stuff. So definitely scroll down there and take a look. Definitely follow them on all their social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. And really appreciate you being on, Luke. I like what you're doing. The company's awesome, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, you too, Nick. Really good chatting with you.
I appreciate it. This is the NDS show. Take care, y'all.